Jar Oil. The company have filling stations across the country, and our rates are relatively cheaper than anyone else across the country. Jar Oil is the biggest producer and distributor of cement in the country with the most competitive prices in the market.
Excellent jam, Suway.
Yo, apply. Yo, luta do dede. Luta munulo jël moto nga andil ma xaalis. Hello?
Bisul mu fine.
What?
Bisul mu fine.
Oh, yes!
Wave Axina Gambia. Deposit and withdraw money, pay bills and buy mobile credit without fees. Transfer money wherever in the country for only 1% fee. At Wave. Bisul mu fine? Wave. Your money is yours.
On Monday, the 21st of October 2025, you're with Coffee Time with Peter Gomez live on West Coast Radio, FM 92.1, online www.wcr.gm. We get straight to it with our two senior cabinet ministers. After all, it's not every day you manage to bring together two top government officials in one radio interview. Starting with Dr. Ismaila Ceesay, for whom this is a regular weekly space. Doc, welcome back to Coffee Time with Peter Gomez.
Good morning, Peter.
Goodness me, where have you been? 4 straight weeks, no sign of you physically, not even your voice.
Yes, I was in New York to attend the UNGA, and after that I took my annual leave, part of my annual leave.
Oh, only part?
Only part.
What's the total entitlement of a minister in terms of vacation?
25 working days.
Which is 5 weeks.
No.
And yes, 5 days. We have a 5-day week, so that's 5 weeks.
Yes,
and
5 weeks.
And in between, if there's
weekend.
Tobaski or Christmas, that's added to it.
That's added to it. Yes,
lucky.
5 weeks, 25 working days.
I
think that is statutory. Isn't it?
How can I become a minister?
Well, I think the right person to speak to is
the
chief of staff.
That leads us to introduce the next guest, the chief of staff and minister in the presidency. I know you've said that it's not minister in the presidency, but it's just difficult for people to just say chief of staff and minister.
Minister of State we say Minister of State every day.
Yeah. Alhaji Mod, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Good to have you here. Let's start with the updates before we go into issues pertaining to audit reports and what have you.
I've got quite a few updates, but
Sure.
I'll just stick with a few, the most prominent ones. First one is from the Office of the President. If we could recall, Kenya was bereaved, I think last week. The long-time opposition leader Raila Odinga passed, and His Excellency the President expressed deep sorrow.
Yeah, there was a time when he was in government as a prime minister.
Exactly. Following the passing of the former Prime Minister of Kenya, Raila Odinga, the President extended condolences to President William Ruto, the Odinga family, and the people of Kenya, reaffirming the Gambia solidarity during this very difficult period of mourning. The second update is from also the presidency. That is the foundation stone laying of Garawal Kusum Road project. President Barrow presided over the laying of the foundation stone for a 6-kilometer road connecting Garawal to Kusum in the Upper River region. This is part of a broader 30-kilometer rural infrastructure plan. The road will link several communities, including Baraji Kunda, Kebekunda, Kanjabina, and Samikuta. The project includes side drains and erosion control systems, enhancing accessibility and contributing to sustainable development in the region. As we always argue, the President, His Excellency, believes that infrastructure is the foundation for any development, any transformation. So that is why the focus is on key infrastructure projects, which include roads, electricity, and water systems, but also education infrastructure and health infrastructure. And this is part of those projects. But also, the residents of Kantora constituency applauded the government's investment in road connectivity. National Assembly member Bilay Tunkara commended President Barrow for ongoing initiatives in health, agriculture, education, women's empowerment, and energy. Then we have also the First Lady yesterday inaugurating a modern medical oxygen plant at Edward Francis Small Teaching Hospital in Banjul. The plan will improve emergency and surgical services, including care for newborns. She reaffirmed her commitment to maternal and child health, aligning with national goals to modernize health services and ensure no citizen is left behind. These are some of the key. I think it's important to emphasize more on this emergency, gas plant at the FSTH. It means that now everything is centralized. You don't no more have to bring gas bottles, oxygen to serve citizens or patients. Now everything is centralized, and the system is built in a manner in which every bedside will have access to a gas plant, oxygen plant, in case it is needed. And I think this is a serious transformation.
The point was made yesterday on the program by Dr. Cherno Jallo, a pediatric surgeon. I think most of the talking this morning will have to be done by the Chief of Staff, because later on, as listeners will be hearing in the newspaper headlines, the point, for instance, has a headline that says government reacts to point editorial. I suppose the reaction has come from State House, because it was under the weekly Good Morning, Mr. President editorial column. What's the reaction all about, Maud?
Thank you, Peter, and good morning to you and to the listeners. I am here to accompany my colleague, Dr. Ceesay, on this.
And also bring rare insights into governance, given that, you are there, right there at the center of gravity, as far as the government of the Gambia is concerned.
I agree. And that's why also I want to, usually I hear you use the word nyambas.
Yes.
Basically on the updates, and in particular the intervention by the First Lady Foundation and a group of philanthropists, charitable organizations from the US that have also partnered with her to put up a massive oxygen plan worth over $8 million.
Oh, dollars, not dollars.
Not dollars, it's $8 million worth of gas plant, oxygen plant. Beside that, they've also donated consignment of drugs worth over $10 million over a period of time. That is massive, because the general cry has always been, with respect to oxygen, or with respect to the hospital, lacks of essential drugs.
Yes.
But this intervention will go a long way in addressing largely the drug shortages. But also the huge amount of money spent on oxygen purchases from Banjul Oxygen Plant.
And sometimes, as Dr. Jallo said here yesterday, you have the money and oxygen isn't available locally.
Absolutely. But you remember, we learn every day. During COVID pandemic, the Western countries hoard essential life-saving medical items, such
understandably so.
Yes, such as even gas, oxygen. You go all around the globe not to find oxygen, so you can understand the conditions we were, and that was an essential needed item for COVID victims. It was so critical. But we have now, at least in the context of the Gambia, moved past that, because in the Gambia, 90% of the private oxygen produced here is consumed by the hospitals.
Oh.
90%. So if now the RVH can produce for itself and even supply other hospital outlets, that is huge. And we can only thank the FAB Foundation and, of course, the consortium that have come together to put up this. And recently also, you remember, Peter, when they also have to have install dialysis machine. It's a huge complex with dialysis machines. In the until then, you would have to have 1 or 2 patients from time to time, but now you can have up to 42 patients dialysis at the same time. So these are things that we have to applaud the hospital management.
And it's good that the information is going out there. Not many Gambians would have known before you just made it public that now for patients needing dialysis, up to 42 could be handled at the same time.
At the same time.
Wow.
So it's massive. So then back to your question.
Yes. On the issue of the point headline, government reacts to point editorial. What was the issue with the editorial? What's the response from government?
No, let me just say the point have a special column for us, which is very good. Good morning, Mr. President.
Yes.
But I think yesterday they have elevated that a little by making it an editorial regarding the outcome of the IMF mission that has just concluded in the Gambia. And I think the observation that we made were, yes, there are certain things that were legitimately raised, but to the extent that two aspects were accused of government, and I thought that was not quite right, and that's what we exactly flagged. One was that government were either exaggerating or spinning its performance under the program. The second one was largely that the present of the program is a pointer to governance failure. We said, now, the IMF assessment was a staff assessment, and they concluded on their own that Gambia have satisfactorily met all the criteria set except for the net domestic borrowing parameter or target.
Did they say that was still too high?
No. The debt sustainability or the debt numbers is one aspect. But the general statement that every program would set a net domestic borrowing target that was missed, and I think the deficit number was also missed. But they were not material enough to constitute a drill or a failure in the program. And in their assessment, then the fourth review of the second year of a 3-year program was passed. And therefore, not necessarily something worth celebrating, but it was worth recognizing for the fact that this was also the only administration that have passed an SMT, that is staff monitored program, 2-year program, transited to an extended credit facility, 3-year period, passed it, and then go to a successive program, and we are in the second year, and each of these reviewed consistently passed all of those reviews.
So that never happened during Yaya Jammeh, not even during Jawara's
regime. This was the first time this is happening. So if we don't applaud or celebrate, then what are we going to celebrate really? On the existence of the program as a sign of weakness or governance weakness also was quite interesting, for the fact that then are we saying the whole of Africa, where the programs are, where the IMF programs are, then those governments are also weak, and those shouldn't require or shouldn't have IMF program. That is not how we see it. We're saying, look, the IMF is a critical partner. It's an essential partner. And yes, if we had the money, just like the Middle East, we would not have needed them. But as long as investors, as well as lenders, are needed in our economic activities, then the IMF would always be there. Why? Because they also have to monitor the economic condition and the economic situation and see that stability exists, so that we'll be able to also take care of those external interests through advisory, through support, but through also surveillance. That is how we relate with the IMF. This is not to say that they are imposing their economic policies or their will on the countries that have the programs. Rather, they come and diagnose and also consult with us, and together draw up policy, economic policy program that, in their mind, in our mind, are suitable to take care of whatever problem that we have identified as a challenge at the time.
I'm sure the finance minister would expound on this later on. He's called me from Washington, where they are attending the what is it, IMF and World Bank, what do they call it,
annual meetings, yes.
Whatever. So he's got a lot to say, especially with regard to these audit report findings, because he was following the conversation with Larry Cise, where the IMF mission as well as the audit reports were discussed. You also have a reaction to what was covered here, starting with the audit reports. $110 billion discrepancy, which is a word you do not like.
No. I have no problem with the word discrepancy, because that is exactly what the auditors characterize it. But they are passing the 110 billion as if unaccounted for, missing fund, and corrupt, whatever use the word they would use. I am saying the average envelope for the 3 years would be around $30 billion. So if you multiply that by 3, Peter, the overall envelope would be somewhere around 90 billion. 90 billion.
Yeah.
The number 110 billion is as a result of the audit approach is such that they have classified into different segments. You have figures that are relating to missing items or missing documentation, procurement breaches, unaccounted funds, unreconciled numbers. Those were the numbers that have been identified from 2021 to 2023 and put together. And you realize that if a cluster falls on the missing item or missing documentation, because of that, they will also reappear on the procurement breaches. Because of that, they will also reappear on the undocumented number. If you have unreconciled account, then because the number cannot be confirmed by the auditors, they will also appear in different segments. So if you do a general lumping and counting, then you will be doing some duplications. This is what the analyst or the analysts fail to show or fail to state. The other aspects and key in the highlights is for the fact that you have to, when you do analysis,
yes,
especially for audit findings, you have to look at what was it, the situation in 2021, and what was it now. You would significantly realize and observe that there is actually improvement in public financial management from 2021 to 2023. Any serious analyst shouldn't fail to see and pick. And yes, the audit conclusion, which is that the accounts do not truly and fairly represent the state of affairs. This is what we call qualified audit. But since Gambia's independence, all government accounts have always remained qualified audit. That's the opinion, and that statement have never changed. But what we are saying is that, what are the improvements? If you delve into the account numbers and analyze them and realize to a very large extent that improvement have been registered. Yes, not as we would all desire, because the desired position is that to have unqualified accounts. But we are not yet there. But definitely we are improving year by year, and that's very, very important. Now, the other thing is specifically on the debt situation.
Yes.
The number finding there is about 70% of GDP.
Yes.
Peter, 70% of GDP, I can tell you, because I managed the desk office as a director for a good 10 years. And I was also a DPS overseeing resource mobilization and aid management for another 10 years. Together, 20 years manning and directly responsible for that office.
And you were PS Finance.
And I was also PS Finance. But I'm just saying how close I was on that particular desk. Before he picked, the numbers were almost 180, 170, or thereabout. Now, then there was this debt forgiveness under the HIPIC, and even before the HIPIC, you have Paris Club forgiveness that have also, during Jawara's time, brought down the debt levels. In Gambia time, you have HIPIC that have also brought the debt level up to about 65%. Sometimes I hear people compare the debt numbers of the different administration, not taking into account interventions that have happened at different period of time. But 70%, even in if you come as close as 2017, the debt numbers were about 120% of GDP.
Oh.
Yes, it was that high. And it was classified as unsustainable debt levels. Mm-hmm. Now with 70%, it's still high, elevated as you would call it, but have significantly come down from 120. And the program, from our own assessment, have classified this as in high-level indebtedness status. It just says that it's a concern flagged by both the audit report as well as even the programs that have been assessed and reviewed. But that is with respect to the GDP benchmarking of the debt numbers and to what extent that has also come down. Another key highlight is also a number which is very interesting.
Is that the $3.9 billion?
The $3.9 billion. That is on account of parastatal debt.
Well, it's described as hidden debt.
Now, what you will hear these people try to link is
which people?
The pseudo analysts. Let me put it that way. Is they're trying, because in Senegal, with the new administration, they came and said, look, they were consolidating all the debt numbers, whether they are central government or parastatal debt. And when they did that, their debt numbers was elevated to above 130% of GDP. It's quite high. And because of that, then lenders have to also hold back, including even the IMF, to say that until you fix these numbers, we are not comfortable to continue the lending arrangement as they are. And rightly so. But the parastatals in Senegal are significantly different from parastatals in the Gambia, and the lending arrangement that happens in Senegal is completely different from the Gambia. In Senegal, the parastatal use their own assets and their own balance sheets to go and borrow on their own. Not that these borrowings were hidden from the treasury or were hidden from government or even the IMF. They knew about this. But they prefer a consolidated treatment, and that's what exactly they did. The IMF was aware of those existence of those parastatal debt or subnational debts, debt casse or whatever they call it in Senegal. Mm-hmm. Not that it was ever hidden; it was always there. Now, in our context, we don't even allow parastatal to borrow directly from lenders, whether from commercial bank, other than their operational requirement. When they overdraft, for example, from the banks, that they can do. But sometimes also subject to the Minister of Finance approval. But what is happening in the Gambia is that we borrow, as central government, we borrow and on-lend to them. So the on-lending aspect is what is constituted as 3.9 billion. And that 3.9 billion is actually debt owed to government. Let's be clear. It's not owed to any third party. It's debt owed to government. Because the government borrowed on their behalf and on-lend to them. So those borrowing from external sources are already consolidated as part of central government debt. And that is also part of the 70% already counted of GDP. So it's not different, it's not isolated, it's not hidden. None of that is true. So that is also what I wanted to...
There's another query of $32.5 million relating to banquet overpayment.
No, okay. Let's isolate it. The 32.5 million is bridge finance that we have extended to the OIC. That is the OIC secretariat that were responsible for organizing the OIC summit. Sometime in 2023, late into the year, they ran out of cash. And it was a threat to the success of holding the summit, because they couldn't pay salaries or even take care of basic operational need. And the audit flag, the arrangement, the audit flagged it as unbudgeted, and it was never appropriated. Now, if they are referring to us giving the money to the secretariat operation was never budgeted. But what they fail to realize is that these were monies drawn from OP budget, for which our programs were only put on hold. We did all the procurement, all the documentations were there, everything was concluded along the due process, and they were appropriately budgeted. We hold our activities and pass this money to OIC Secretariat to continue their operation.
So you suspended certain activities of OP in order to fund this need of the OIC Secretariat?
OIC Secretariat. With the understanding that because OIC Secretariat were largely funded from grants and donations, when their money comes, which was late into the year, the auditors also expected that they should have gone through Treasury and then back to OP. But remember, we have already withdrawn this from Treasury and give it to them. And if they had gone through Treasury, the funds would have lapses. With hindsight, yes, we could have gone through the Treasury if time allowed. But if you had gone through Treasury at the material time, fund would have lapsed and would have been ended with arrears. So we said, okay, paid on behalf of our vendors and suppliers, which they did. Now the auditor says, okay, at the time they were auditing, they did not receive the documentation and the full disclosure of the information. But they forget that the same entity, the National Audit Office, audited the OIC Secretariat and have looked at and verified all those items, and we are satisfied and dropped it from the audit. Now, even in the government audit, when they raised that initial query and we submitted all the documents, they accepted it and also goes further to flag two items. And if you allow me.
Yeah, sure.
Item number 1 relates to a pickup that we purchased. It's a second-hand pickup. We had run at the time 5,000 kilometers. But this pickup is a Ram American type pickup truck. Now, the auditors for 2.5 million. And the pickup is easily identifiable because that is what we use to ferry our media team and journalists. That's that famous big pickup, Ram type pickup. That Ram type pickup now was compared to Toyota Hilux pickup, which would have cost around the same time. But even that, we disagree because a new Toyota Hilux pickup today would cost you around 3 million or 3.5 million. All the same. But the comparison we are making is that you were actually comparing apple and orange. The market comparison you are making is that you just call vendors and ask for quotes, and anybody could have give you any number because you are not binded. Bidding has a process in itself because you bid and you also secure your bid through a guarantee that if you are called to supply, you will supply at that price. So the fact that that comparison was made, number 2, the items were completely different. This particular, a new Ram pickup American type truck today will cost you nothing less than $6 million. So the comparison made, we observe and we have responded to that to say, look, I think the comparison made was slightly faulty. Now the other item relates to purchase of air ticket, business class air ticket, which they also said was overpriced by somewhere $300,000 or $350,000.
Per ticket, is it?
No, the ticket said, the business class ticket to the US and back.
Is that the whole lot of it? Or the overpricing is 300 plus per ticket?
No, the overpricing of that particular ticket was by 300,000.
Oh, there was just only one ticket?
Just one ticket.
Okay.
Now, that one ticket, the comparison they did was they also called the airlines, the airline agents, and they gave around 564 or about $600,000. We purchased the ticket for about $900,000. but not
dollars or Dallasy?
Dallasy.
Okay. No, we heard dollars, and I was
Dallasy.
Yeah.
Maybe I was just looking at the wrong numbers, the debt numbers recently, which we always
quote in dollars.
Quote in dollars.
Yes.
I mean Dallasy.
Yeah.
Now, you at the time of audit, remember this was almost 1 year after, time difference of 1 year, and yes, if you go on in time and then request for ticket, the ticket cost will be slightly lower than if you were to have last minute trust. Our procurement process is such that the decision is always late. You would go maybe 1 week or 2 weeks, or maybe a few days later, and then the same price would have also changed because of late purchase. So those things happen, and those we think should have been taken into account before reaching that decision that of overpricing. That is exactly what happened to those two items.
Fantastic. Sometimes though, last minute tickets can be way cheaper than if you bought, during normal times.
I do hear about that, but in my experience, in the Gambia here, the last minute tickets are usually much higher.
Gambia may be unique.
Unfortunately.